Welcome to Spirit of a Handyman, where today I'm going to teach you how to take something like this and turn it into one of these.
He's got the spirit of a handyman, a handyman.
Now I've thought about a dozen ways to do this that doesn't involve using a wagon, but I think this is probably just about as simple as it gets. I'm simply going to screw this piece of wood into the porch and use that to secure it, so while I use a chainsaw, the piece of wood doesn't start rolling away. The big hang up with this project was I was initially going to use drywall screws, but those were only going to go about here. I needed to go through a 2x4, through this fence piece on my deck, and then bite into the wood. So I ended up going with these gnarly screws. They're about 6 inches, and so back these bad boys in there. Make sure that if you have a drill, set it to the drill setting, so not the hammer, not the screw, but the drill, so that way it doesn't start to slip. I've got mine set on the highest setting as well. So that will hold our piece of wood in place. You just want to double check and make sure that you know how far into the log your screws are going. Mine's going to go in about that far. So I want to make sure that I mark the log and don't use my chainsaw beyond that, because it'd be a bad day to catch this with the end of the chainsaw. Alright, so there are about a dozen ways you could do this. The big thing is I needed to figure out how I was going to keep the log from moving when the chainsaw started to go through it. So ended up coming up with this idea of screwing a piece of wood in with a couple bolts to keep the log from rolling, propping like this wagon, and this is holding most of the weight of the log up. And then I've got another piece of wood underneath it, so when the chainsaw comes down, I'm not destroying the wagon. Kids would be sad. General principle is when at all possible, use a chainsaw for a project. So I'm not going to operate this while using the chainsaw, but basically I'm going to fire this bad boy up, and I'm going to take you know, like inch and a half sections and just try to cut down as straight as possible and see what we end up with. Alright, so as you can see, ended up cutting 3 logs, and each of them a slightly different size, 12-inch, 11-inch, 9-inch rounds, and got about a dozen cuts each out of the log the size I was looking at, so that kind of gives you an idea of how much you're looking at. Through cutting these, you'll end up leaving a bunch of nicks from the chainsaw, so this is where a belt sander is going to come in real handy. I ended up starting with probably like a 200 grit on this, and it was taking forever, so went to the store and picked up a 36 grit. Really easy to throw these new belts on and off. Just throw that lever, you can loosen the thing up, and then you can use 2 hands. It's like super easy. One hand, you can just see that it does come off, and then to tighten it back up, throw the lever, bada bing, bada boom, ready to go. 36 grit. We're gonna sand this puppy down and see if we can get it smooth. Okay, after about 5 minutes of sanding, I've got this half done, this half not done. So you can see how the sander at that low grit has really taken a lot of those lines out of the piece of wood. Drone break! So the next time a 150-year-old tree falls in your backyard, don't think of it as a travesty, think of it as an opportunity.